Community Development Committee meeting is now called to order. Ashley, would you please call the roll?
Calling the roll, Mr. Jones.
Here.
Mr. Brady.
Here.
Mr. Hauser.
Here.
Ms. Simon. Ms. Simon is absent at the moment. Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
We have a quorum. Let the record reflect Mr. Miller is also in attendance.
Excellent. Ashley, has anyone signed in for public comment related to the agenda?
No, no one has signed in.
All right. Can we have a motion to approve our minutes from our February 22nd, 2018 meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Brady, seconded by Councilman Mike Gallagher. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Our minutes are approved. We have no items referred to committee today, but we do have a presentation from MetroHealth and the good work we're doing here on this transformation. So please come forward as you would like to present. Good morning.
Thank you again. My name is Letitia James, and I'm the Director of Local Government Relations for MetroHealth System. And we are very excited to come to you today as members of Community Development Committee to present an update about our transformation as well as our West 25th corridor development. Joining me today will be Walter Jones, who's our Senior Vice President of Campus Transformation, and Jim Haviland, who is our Director of Economic and Community Development. They will present, and if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them afterwards. Walter?
Good morning. Well, thank you for having us this morning, and we're very excited to present the developments that we had on our two major initiatives under transformation. One is the campus transformation that I'm in charge of as the Senior Vice President of that very same title, and I do appreciate Dr. Boutros giving me that title. It is my favorite in my career. And then Jim will talk about the greater community transformation as a result of that. The campus transformation is summed up. We have a charter actually that sums it up. Is that the MetroHealth campus transformation will create an environment that supports MetroHealth's mission of leading the way for a healthier community and a healthier you by promoting community engagement and excellence in clinical care, research, and education, resulting in improved health and wellness. This is the mantra, if you will, that we are using with the design team that we have in place right now, and will be expanded as we get into the construction team as we produce this project over the next 4 years. What I'll show you today is sort of a status of where we are at this point, the concepts that we have brought to bear so far, and give you a sense of the direction that we're pursuing. This gives you an idea of the schedule that we're looking at right now for the production and the completion of the project. As you can see, some of the elements actually we've already accomplished. Our critical care pavilion, in many ways, was considered a first step as far as the campus transformation. That was our 100,000 square foot vertical expansion that we completed in 2016. It currently houses 85 new ICU beds that were moved out of the existing towers and has been in place for the past 2 years. This year, or just last year, and I guess the most significant thing that makes this project run is the dollars. And the organization was able to get the $945 million to fund the project. Now, I don't get to play with all that. I get to play with about $764 million of that to complete my piece of the project. But it is extremely rewarding and very, very good for us to know that we have a fully funded project with no impediments of that to get in the way to stop the project. We are now we just about 3 weeks ago moved into schematic design. We've hired our master architect, our master construction manager at risk, and our owner's representative services last summer. They have been in a pre-design mode since about August, and about 3 weeks ago, we've moved into schematic design. We are planning a reveal of the design at our stakeholders meeting in June, and I expect all of you will be there to see that. And right now, the schedule calls for first patient occupancy in the fall of 2022. We will be working with the team and the other consultants that come on board between now and then, and as we start construction, to see if we actually have the ability to accelerate that schedule. We are optimistic that we'll be able to do so, but at this point, all of our budget and scheduling is based on this time frame. The work that we've the work that we've done so far to develop what you may have seen described as the hospital in the park began with our pre-design effort looking at what we call these extreme schemes. We looked at the edges. We looked at the ways that we could configure this campus to work best, not only for MetroHealth, but for the community. Taking a look at our current campus, one of the things that you can see from this aerial is that it is heavily built up. It is a very urban site in terms of the amount of land that is taking up with the built environment. There's about a lone acre or so of green space on this entire campus of any consolidated amount. What we want to do is to change MetroHealth's 52 acres on the near west side to be more like this. Roughly about half of the acreage would be open space that is accessible to the community, providing both a park, areas of respite, areas for recreation, areas for activities that can happen as either part of MetroHealth's mission or for the overall community effort. Taking a look at the buildings themselves, the curved building that you see sort of in the center of the screen is our critical care pavilion. It is the one that we just vertically expanded 2 years ago. Going to the right on the screen, which is south, then is where the new construction is focused. The hospital tower, about a 10-story building, 270 beds. The new replacement outpatient pavilion, the one that shows in the pinkish color, and a new visitor garage we're estimating right now of about 1,200 cars that's shown in blue. Now these are massings right now. The hospital mass is about correct as we're moving into design. Those for the outpatient pavilion and the parking garage are in much earlier stages of development, and we're working on those. So those configurations are not necessarily the ones that you might see in 2022.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
The nursing home, the Metro skill, I didn't see it in the picture.
Correct. So, sorry. So the Prentice Nursing Home let's see, would be the facility. Does that show up there? No. Okay. So at the north end of the park, you see a long building with a round element to it. It's against Sackett Road between West 25th and Scranton. That is the proposed relocation for the Prentice Skilled Nursing Facility.
Can you touch it with your finger? I can't.
Yeah, let's see if that.
To the left.
To the left.
Yeah, I'm not sure that shows up on the screen. No, the pointer doesn't show up on screen. Sorry.
Over here.
There.
Got you.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Sorry. So it's not moving off campus. It'd be relocated on campus. I think is the key thing to keep in mind.
And Mr. Jones, would it
Yes.
be all right if we chime in a few times in
Sure.
between?
Absolutely.
Councilman Miller?
Yes.
On the earlier slide, the one that said extreme schemes,
Yes.
can you explain what it is? It had an arrow to the left saying Clark Fulton engagement, and then an arrow on the right that said Cleveland engagement.
The architects were taking a look at as the schemes were developed, where the orientation of green space. The big difference between those three that you see is the focus on on which edge of the campus the green space is located. So you see the one on the left locates a large collection of the green space between West 25th and Scranton, therefore addressing more Clark Fulton. The scheme on the right, then on the far right, has the majority of the green space on the campus around the eastern edge of the campus, and so they were describing that as more of the city engagement. And the one in the middle was focused on where a lot of the master planning that had been happening over the past 3 years had focused on, was more of an internal sort of large park courtyard, sort of surrounded by the rest of the campus development.
And which one is closest to the direction that you're heading in?
Well, so what we've done is we've actually addressed them all. So
All of the above.
all of the above, and that was the purpose of that extreme scheme conversation. Out of that conversation that we've had with our the leaders at MetroHealth was a sense of we need to find a way to address all of those constituencies. We need a better front lawn, if you will, a better front approach to the community that we're in the middle of at Clark Fulton, and that goes to that West 25th and Scranton Road presence right now that we know most people see us as having a wall, a fortress, presenting ourselves as a fortress to. We wanted to have a more engaged edge on the eastern side. And so we have a green space there on the eastern edge. We put a perimeter road there. We've also been working closely with Metro Parks and with the Canalway partners, and it ends up that edge. Then we are looking at developing that as an extension of the towpath and to be able to come through our campus. And then at the same time, we knew we needed to have space in the center of our campus for our staff and for our patients and for our visitors. These are maybe more private in some cases, either literally private by being cordoned off, or private in terms of their sense of giving an area for them to feel comfortable in the environment that they're in the hospital. So those extreme schemes then resulted in this, and that's how we generated now about half of the campus is open space, and the other half is focused on the buildings. So the next couple of slides, a little bit of some of the imagery. Now, this is not design. This is simply trying to demonstrate what the size and scale of the appearance of the new development as we're looking at it right now might look like from street level. We still have a long way to go to see what the actual elevations are going to look like. So think of this as a mass model. But if you were coming off of the 71 southbound 71 exit onto West 25th Street, you'd be at this intersection. And because of that large park that we have that we're proposing between West 25th and Scranton, you would very easily be able to see the hospital as you get off of the exit. This does a couple of things for us. One, it brings the front door of the hospital visible to the community that we serve and to the approaching patients and visitors. Technically, it's a great wayfinding tool, because the hardest thing for people to do, particularly in a very hurried situation, is to try and find the front door of the hospital. We want to make that very easy for them. So where we would be able to provide this view. As you move along West 25th, come to the front entrance up to South Point Drive, that entrance becomes much more prominent and easy to find. And so our goal then is to make that as clear as possible. But at the same time, we've got this large park, this community amenity, if you will, that we are providing as, if you will, the front door now, as opposed to the wall of buildings that we currently have. If you're approaching southbound on West 25th, this is the way the hospital will look, and much the same impact and same effect as you're coming from town or from the intersection of Clark and West 25th. And then as you get to the front door to South Point Drive now, we may change the name of that. And as you approach the entrance to the hospital, we now have a dedicated drive, more or less a dedicated drive now, that brings you directly to the front door and the arrival point to the hospital. This is very different than the way you come to the hospital now, where you pretty much have to cross through the streets, meander into the interior of the campus, and can make it very confusing for patients that are really trying to get to where they need to go. And this is part of the effort the architects are bringing to us in terms of how we want to reach out to the community in a much better way and much clearer way. The interior of the hospital, as you come into the lobby, these are just a couple of speculative images. We've got a lot of design to do, but the concept here is for it to be much more open, welcoming, day-lit type of space when you arrive. Something that gives you a better sense of orientation when you come in. It's open. It's much friendlier. It's a much warmer type of atmosphere and a much more relaxing type of atmosphere. The things that we know is that hospital environments are stressful enough. We're trying to relieve some of that with the nature of the design that we have. Access to daylight, views to nature are some of those things that provide some of that soothing type of environment for patients and visitors alike, and the staff. We can't ignore that either, since environment supports that. Yes, sir.
Mr. Jones, I had a quick question. What have you guys done to get the surrounding neighborhoods and community prepared for all this construction and development that you guys are planning to do?
That is a great question, and between Jim and I, that is a conversation that we're going to have to start to have with them. We have touched the community on official levels in terms of talking to ODOT and the city in terms of what we understand the traffic changes might need to be, and we're in conversations with them in terms of controlling that. Our goal is to try and keep a lot of the construction traffic, and there will be a lot, as much out of the way of the regular traffic as possible. That's not only for the community, but it's also for our campus as well. We need to operate our hospital in its fullest functionality for the next 4 years while all of this is underway. We not only have our patients and visitors that need to be able to still arrive as clearly as they possibly can, but we also, of course, have our emergency traffic and our regular supply traffic that still needs to support the hospital as best it can. That conversation is really, this is part of the schematic design phase that we're really beginning with, because now that we know the footprint of the hospital, where it needs to sit, we can then start to see, well, what are the mechanisms that need to be in place in order to build it that way. The advantage of having Turner on board as our master CM right now is that we can have those conversations. We don't have to wait till we've completed the design and then hire them and then try and figure that out in a much shorter time period. So those conversations are beginning both internally of how we can prepare for this, and then externally reaching out to official agencies, and then eventually the community itself to communicate with them about what is likely to occur over the next couple of years as this construction is underway. We do know a number of things about the potential economic impact of this project. MetroHealth has had a study completed that shows the potential for what both the economic impact may be, and the benefit in terms of jobs, in terms of dollars, and in terms of tax revenue that might possibly occur from a project this size and scale and duration, and that's the real key. It's all three of those things working in concert. So this will be quite significant to the county and to the community from the results that we've seen of that study. Right now, we are underway in construction on our parking garage, our staff parking garage, the first element of this project. We have a 1,500-car garage that is under construction right now. That began last fall. It is being constructed by Donnelly, so it's all local work, all local labor. Right now, we're seeing about 45 to, I think, 50 or 60 tradesmen on site. We're about 3 stories up of a 7-story garage. From what I understand, we may peak at about 65 or so, 65 to 80, depending on when we're pouring concrete and when we aren't over the course of that project. That project is scheduled to be complete in September, end of September, or around October 1st. And that will lead the way for us to begin the construction on the main hospital. The main hospital is on the site of a current staff garage, a 900-car garage. So we're building the new garage first, we'll move the staff over into the new garage, and then we can begin the site work, the demolition and the site work and the construction on the new hospital. So that's slated to begin that work by the end of this year. And then that will be progressing over the next 4 years. So the other element, and this sort of starts to transcend between the campus transformation and the community transformation, is that MetroHealth has chosen and elected to participate to become an eco-district. An eco-district is a protocol for development of communities around the country. We are the only actually healthcare-driven eco-district. And in doing so, what an eco-district helps to define is to develop a neighborhood or a section of town, if you will, that deals with, first off, the imperatives of equity, resilience, and economic development. Resilience, of course, is more technical in terms of being able to sustain itself through all sorts of adversities, and obviously a hospital campus needs to be able to do that. Economic development, as you can see here, is certainly going to occur, and then there are other sustainable aspects of an eco-district that you might suspect for something with that type of title. Our hospital campus, for example, we are targeting a LEED Silver rating for the campus development. We think we're very confident in being able to achieve that. My last project in Dallas was also $1 billion project, much larger than this. We targeted LEED Silver. That was for Parkland Hospital. We actually achieved LEED Gold, and that is becoming, I think, more and more capable of being able to happen. Sustainable practices are becoming much more common. They're becoming much more mainstream. And so our architects and our engineers and our contractors are very familiar with these types of standards. I've also just recently hired a director of sustainability at MetroHealth, and she's coming up on her 90 days, and she's still with us and will be with us for the project and beyond. So we now have a focus that we can do not just for the construction, but actually the operation of the hospital afterwards. So all of these things are working in sync together as we develop the campus, as we develop it into a defined eco-district, and then into the rest of the community transformation that Jim Haviland is in charge of. And I'm open to answering any other questions you have on the campus. If not, I'd certainly have Jim come up and tell you about the transformation of the rest of the community and the plans for that.
All right. At this time, Ashley, let the record reflect Councilwoman Sunny Simon is in attendance. Do we have any questions from the committee?
Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Mr. Chairman, members of the Community Development Committee, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present our community transformation efforts to you this morning. To Councilman Hauser, one of the things that I think is most important about our efforts is we see the campus transformation as well as the revitalization of West 25th Street and its adjacent neighborhoods as one singular priority for the MetroHealth system. That's why Walter and I work so closely together. Certainly, we will only be successful if we have community engagement. So I think in my presentation, hopefully I'll show you some of those things we're doing around that. When we are looking at the community transformation efforts, we're doing it with two different departments within the MetroHealth system. Number one is the Department of Economic and Community Development, which I'm the director of, which is new, and some say one of the first in a hospital in the nation. And then we're also working with the new nonprofit we created, CCH Development Corporation, which's mission is to support MetroHealth provide for the health and the welfare of the community it serves through your traditional economic development and community development activities. So between those two departments within the system, we really feel like we're going to have a significant impact on the revitalization of West 25th Street. As the anchor institution, we really, and the largest employer on the west side, we really have the opportunity and responsibility to convene our partners around opportunities and helping to set priorities. And what I'm going to talk about are the infrastructure priorities as well as the development priorities that we're really focusing on. So the map you see right in front of you is actually work we set out to do immediately, because we had to understand along West 25th Street and in its neighborhoods with strong nonprofits like Ohio City Inc., Tremont, Metro West, and Old Brooklyn. There's about 20 different plans that were in place, some dating back 10, 15 years, whether they're infrastructure plans or streetscape improvements. And what we did is we convened our partners to sit down and say, let's make sense of what the opportunities are and establish a set of priorities. So that engagement with the individual CDCs, community groups, as well as established a very strong working group called the West 25th Street Stakeholder Coalition, which Walter chaired, and now I'm chairing with Joel Ratner, Cleveland Neighborhood Progress, is ensuring that we're really reaching out to the community and a broad cross-section of the community when we're looking at what we think we need to do to be successful. So one of the first, and I would say most significant infrastructure priorities for this corridor, not unlike what we saw many people supporting along Euclid Avenue with the creation of the health tech corridor, or the health line, for RTA, was RTA's bus rapid transit concept. This is the second highest ridership in RTA when it comes to 25th Street. It has been designated as a priority corridor by RTA in the city of Cleveland. And what we've done with our partners is to establish this as one of the most important things we want to see happen, increasing the public transportation, making sure that we have quality transportation that travels down West 25th Street as well. And then what MetroHealth did to support RTA was to brand this the MetroHealth line. And what that does is when RTA goes to the federal government to try to get some small start grants to create dedicated transit lines and improve bus shelters and other benefits to the community, we have a local sponsorship match now that allow us to compete for that. So this is something that we're strongly supporting, and we see it as really a vital piece of what we're trying to do along West 25th Street. Again, to your point, Councilman Hauser, some of the things that we needed to do was understand how does the new campus that Walter and his team work on allow for the community to access it to a higher extent, as well as gateway entrances that will contribute to West 25th Street and allow for better development and access along West 25th Street as we start to see improvements move along. So one of the first things we looked at was at the intersection of Valentine and West 14th Street. If you know this is where you come off the traffic circle from Tremont and you access 176 or 71 southbound. We've all agreed that this intersection needs to be looked at. When I say we, ODOT, the City of Cleveland, NOACA, and we need to make improvements to this intersection because we need to move traffic out of Valentine in a much more effective way and efficient way. So that is one of the first priority projects we have in what we're calling the gateway entrances. The second, and one of the more significant ones, is as you get off at I-71 southbound to the exit on 25th and Pearl. In order for us to be able to access some of the new roadway systems within the campus transformation, we need to be able to penetrate through to Scranton and ultimately the View Road and allow for that traffic movement to happen. So we had a recent meeting with NOACA, ODOT, and the City of Cleveland Traffic Engineering, and we all agree that to change this intersection, do an intersection modification study and make it a four-way intersection is going to make a big difference for the flow of traffic in and out of the campus. And one of the other things that this does do is it changes a lot of the way Scranton is used because it is a cut-through, and there's a lot of residents just to the north of our MetroHealth Drive, and it will slow Scranton down, and it'll put more cars also on West 25th Street, which will help add to the ability for revitalization, the creation of amenity retail and other things on 25th Street as you go forward. Then on the campus itself, Walter had mentioned that the towpath trail is something that emerged as a top priority as we met with the Metro Parks and Tim Donovan at Canal Way Partners. we determined that the connection from the Metro Parks up to the top of the hill in Tremont was a missing link, and that we had the ability to put a really dynamic connector through the campus transformation, which those same members, those community partners, are working with Walter and his team on establishing this. The other things we were looking at is when you get to off of the West 25th Street up to the top of the traffic circle, ODOT has agreed to move their infrastructure on the ODOT bridge in 2024 to allow for the traffic to the shared use path to be able to be accessing where the connection is at the top of Tremont that then drops you down to the trailheads that goes all the way to the lake. So that was another key piece of public infrastructure that is moving along and has reached consensus. So when we start looking at the development committees, or development activities that are occurring, one of the first things that we looked at was land that we control over across the street from our main campus. And this is a 3-building complex that we have agreed would be best utilized if we move our MetroHealth police station out of the lower level of our towers across the street and build a new signature police station on a site that has 3 vacant and underutilized buildings. We're also looking at moving our Lifelike ground unit to that site. And then we're also going to add what we're calling a neighborhood innovation center to that complex to create a 23,000 square foot brand new facility. And within the neighborhood innovation center, that's where we'll have the house, we will house the new nonprofits. We're looking at innovation space that will be for community training. And also it would be used for other engagements I'll talk about in a moment when it comes to our employer-assisted housing program. We'll do home buyer education classes out of there. And there is a potential as well to add a retail accelerator in the front of the building as well. So we're really seeing this as something that will be a tremendous asset to our employees, their family, as well as members of the community. This was a project that received a Tier 1 priority from Greater Cleveland Partnership for the state capital grant, and we received $750,000 for it. So we see this as being something very important, and by moving the police station out onto the street, it adds to very real and perceived safety for West 25th Street.
Jim, the red targeted mixed-use area, are you still in land acquisition, or have you acquired all that you
That land is,
desire?
yes, Mr. Chairman, that land is under control. So we're actively programming it right now and seeking the dollars for that.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Sir, Chair.
Councilman.
So you're going to move the police out of the bottom level. How are you going to use the space that's vacated? When you move out, is that going to be demo? Is that, or what's?
Yeah, the towers are, yes, that'll be
That's
part
in
of
the
the.
tower itself?
That is correct, Councilman.
Okay.
Right,
So it has to be moved.
right. Another priority that emerged is the La Via Hispana project. This is clearly one of the more significant initiatives that we're seeing with our stakeholders. This is the opportunity to create the cultural and economic epicenter for the Latino and Hispanic community. One of the first projects that they're looking at is the El Mercado, which is a $10 million project. This also was a project that just received $100,000 from the state capital grant. It is a project that we want to see happen, and it's the first of what will be many. This is the creation of La Via is not unlike what they did with Asiatown when we looked at creating the sense of place for the Asian community in Cleveland. So this is also a very important initiative that we all agreed on. And then lastly, one of the things that I think is going to be really catalytic is that the MetroHealth system is going to undertake an employer housing assistance program where we want to incentivize up to 500 family members to locate in close proximity to MetroHealth, the main campus, as well as the old Brooklyn Center. We're working closely with our community development partners, with the land bank, to determine where these new residential houses should be built. We're raising dollars right now for the program. To give you an idea, if you were to look at buying in this general area, you could have up to $20,000 in down payment assistance. If you're going to rent, we would be incentivize our employees with a $1,400 rental, one-time rental assistance. And if you live in a neighborhood, which we have over 200 people already, you're able to take advantage of a home improvement loan as well. And that is up to $8,000 if you contribute up to 25% of the total project cost. So those are some of the incentives. Clearly the neighborhood groups are really, looking forward to this initiative to move forward because it will certainly help catalyze a lot of the housing redevelopment in the area. So I'll pause there and then see, I think Walter and I will continue to answer some questions.
Mr. Chairman. Council President?
Good morning. This is really amazing. I'm very familiar with the area for over, a long time. And, this is so ambitious, but it's real. That it's hard to believe. And it's got to be the biggest thing that has to happen in this part of the city for several generations, easily. It's so complex in terms of all the people that are involved in the state and the city and the county and all the efforts like the towpath, but also like ODOT and the potential of impacting the commercial strip and the residential area, and along with what has developed over the last 15 years on the north end of West 25th Street with all the growth and the inability to find a place to park in a positive way, and the rebuilding of Tremont, which was a complete ghetto 30 years ago. It's just really, really inspiring. I wanted to ask a little bit about, you talked about the engagement with the Hispanic community and the thematic part of it, which I think is important. But in terms of the opportunities, you talk about the number of jobs and the number, all this activity. How are we linking up with the Hispanic community in particular in terms of our opportunity to give those people an opportunity to make something out of this transformation for themselves and their families?
You guys start with
Yeah, so I think there are two parts. Again, we are sort of two parts. So as far as the campus transformation is concerned, one of the advantages we have is that Turner is our construction manager. They're very, very adept and familiar with performing the outreach to the community, particularly on a project of this size. Right now, they are in the works planning outreach sessions. They have two within their team. They're leveraging Ozan Construction and Adrian Maldonado that are part of their team in being able to arrange outreach sessions along with our diversity and inclusion department and our supply chain to reach out to the local community, both the Hispanic community and others as well, because we are at that point in the project. We are going to begin to start to line up the trades and the subcontractors that we need for the project. Our first guaranteed max proposal is intended to go out in October, but prior to that, we actually will be procuring some tradesmen in a design assist mode. In other words, we're bringing them on board while we're still in design. And so in order to do that, they are preparing to outreach to the community to be able to, to make sure that they're aware, have the opportunity to compete, and also because much of it may require them to form teams, so we want to get them plenty of time and advance notice of what's to come on the project so they can form those teams so they can compete effectively to be able to participate on the project. So that activity will be happening over the next few months and throughout the course of the project. It's a long project, so some of that's going to happen now and some will happen over the course of the project.
Just briefly, Mr. Chairman, and indulge me, this is in my district and Metro is my hospital. Adrian Maldonado is paying some, what is his role?
So he is so Turner Construction has got is a team in itself. Turner is the lead. Adrian is on their team. Ozan Construction is on their team. Much like our master architect, and the engineers, which are made up of a series of both HGA, which is the main firm, but they're also utilizing Bostwick design partners here, Karpinski engineer, as well as several minority engineers on their team as well. And so those form the core of where we are right now for the effort that's underway. What Turner is doing on their side then is that then they are leveraging their team members as well as our own contacts that we have at MetroHealth with local Hispanic agencies like to set up outreach sessions to reach others to participate in the in the trades and the opportunities that are gonna that we will have over the course of the project. So they're leveraging their insight, their knowledge, their connections to the community, as well as the ones that Turner has on their own, as well as the ones that we have through our supply chain to, if you will, as much as we can, blanket the community, again, with awareness and the opportunity to know what's coming so that they can respond when we're going to need them.
Well, thank you. I happen to know Adrian for quite a while, so I look forward to speaking with him about that. Just one last thing. I know the councilman asked about community meetings and stuff, and I can remember, I can't tell you, I think it's around 4 years ago or something, but I was at one of those stakeholder meetings, the West 25th stakeholder meetings, so I know all the people that you're talking about. I mean, there's everybody you can imagine is involved. And I remember, the way I remember it anyway, Dr. Boutros had just recently, come to town, and he was at the meeting and he was explaining, what he wanted to do. There were obviously already people who were working on this effort for a long time, but he was explaining what he wanted to do. And I listened to him and I thought, wow, I have a hard time believing this isn't pie in the sky, that all of this, it just seems way too much. It seems like a planner's fantasy. I mean, I knew the hospital had a lot of, the resources and the ability to do a lot, but what was being envisioned in that meeting some 4 years ago, which is what you're talking about now, just seemed, it seemed like too far-fetched to be true. So it's great.
And to follow that, take us back. Remind us the original need for why the transformation was necessary. What was the challenges and issues going on with the hospital back then?
So with the hospital building itself, so what I can tell you, because my other duties when I'm not building the new hospital, is I'm also in charge of the planning, design, and construction department. So that's all the routine capital renovations and builds that happen around the system. Also, facilities management with this. So that's the engineering. That's the general upkeep and operation of not only the hospital but the other facilities that we have in the system. I also have real estate, sustainability, and space management. So everything regarding the facilities, if you will, is mine. When I arrived in 2014, to your point, so I got the download on the story of why are we doing this? It's a very pertinent question because you need to keep that in mind, because there's always the sense of, well, can you continue to sustain with where you are? So the short answer on that, I can tell you, very definitively, is absolutely not. The existing facilities that we have on our campus is a collection of buildings. I know lots of people see it as one building perhaps, but it's actually a collection of buildings, some dating back to over 100 years old. The administrative suite, where the C-suite is, its structural frame is 100 years old. Okay, and while the structure is perfectly fine to sustain itself for 100 years, the other parts and pieces that make a building work don't last that long. The towers are dated from the 70s, and other than their functional constraints, and their functional constraints is those are small rooms. They're designed as semi-private rooms. They have shared bathrooms with no showers. So this is not the environment that I think any of you want to be getting your health care in, or have your loved ones get the health care. And it's not the right environment to deliver care today. It's not what people expect today. And so as healthcare becomes more of a business and the competition is somewhat fierce, and MetroHealth is dedicated to being here for the next 180 years, okay, from a simple functional aspect, okay, it has to change. It has to provide the right environment for delivering the best care that it can in the best way. The expansion that we did on our critical care pavilion, and more recently the inpatient hospitals that we built at Cleveland Heights and at Parma, are demonstrations of the type of environment that is expected for delivering care in the 21st century. So that's one element of it. The other element of it is the simple inability for the facility to sustain itself operationally, and this is purely from a mechanical infrastructure standpoint, for the foreseeable future. We have a very decentralized system, and that's not good from a mechanical standpoint. We have very little redundancy in the system, and it can be significantly compromised. The event that happened before I arrived, and I'm glad it happened before I arrived, because I think if I had sustained that winter event, I might have changed my mind moving from Dallas to Cleveland, but that notwithstanding, that event in the winter of 13-14 or whatever significantly compromised the infrastructure of the hospital to the extent that on two separate occasions, this is what I understand, on two separate occasions the hospital seriously considered needing to close. The cold, the wind, and the temperature all coalesced together in that perfect storm of events to allow sub-zero air to enter the mechanical system of the hospital. Now, what that means is that every bit of ductwork and the like or whatever was suddenly now not at that comfortable 75 degrees or whatever it needs to be, but was at sub-freezing temperatures. This started freezing sprinkler pipes, bursting them, and flooding them, and causing us to have to relocate patients or whatever into other parts of the hospital that were safer. So we suddenly found ourselves in not having a safe environment to do what we needed to do. And with the specter of what it was going to take to have to correct that, and there was a study that was done actually in 2010, 2011 that had done exactly that. And essentially what the hospital got in the winter of 13-14 was proof of concept of that facility condition assessment, that in order to bring the hospital up to speed, if it was going to sustain itself for the foreseeable future, of needing to spend $1 billion to do so. And then going back to my earlier statement, not having a facility that would be functionally competent to do the job that it needs to do to deliver care over the foreseeable future. So that's why this is the best course of action in order to get Cleveland, get Cuyahoga County the type of healthcare facility it needs in order to deliver the care to its citizens.
Thank you. As I look at the imagery, there's additional green space.
Yes.
Can I take it that we've reduced the square footage as well of the footprint of the hospital, or does that remain the same?
So there's a yes and no to that. Yes, there is some reduction in the total square footage on the campus, but a lot of that is due to the efficiency of the types of spaces that we're providing. So we're 270 beds in addition to the 85 that we have on the critical care pavilion, but they're all private beds. Okay, so we can operate private beds at a higher occupancy rate, 80, 85%, versus a semi-private bed that you can only operate about, 60% or maybe to 70 if you're really, really lucky. Okay, the reason is because, you put somebody else in the same room with you, they have to sort of be some level of compatibility. I mean, they don't have to be best friends, but from a medical standpoint, they have to have some level of compatibility. You can't always do that. In a private room, you don't have to worry about that. Everybody can be where they need to be. So we can operate the facility at a higher level of occupancy, sometimes with what seems to be fewer beds.
So all rooms will be single?
All rooms will be single private rooms. Now, they will have the capability to surge up and be doubled. So we do know we're a trauma hospital. We're a level 1 trauma center. We're here for every event that can possibly happen in the area and be able to respond to it effectively. One way that we're doing that, and we have that in our critical care pavilion, we have that in our inpatient hospitals, is that we've duplicated the head walls. We can double up those rooms for a period of time to take care of that, immediate need, however long that particular event may happen. And so we're ready to do that as well.
Will you have a less number of overall beds, and was that something identified? Has there been a change, a lesser need for bed space?
On campus, the number of beds may change, but system-wide, however, you'll actually may even see a little uptick now, because we've added the 28 beds that are now out in the community. Not to forget, we've got the beds down at our old Brooklyn campus, about 1.5 miles down the road. So between the beds on our current campus, the beds in the community, and the beds at our Old Brooklyn campus, we are well positioned to take care of the needs for the county.
You mentioned the bond would generate 960 million, 873 million,
Yes.
and that you would dedicate it somewhere over 700 million?
So the bond that the organization was able to procure was for $945 million. The project budget, the part that I get to my rails, are $764 million of that. That is the total project cost, construction, soft costs for furnishings, IT, and everything all together. That includes contingency. That also includes projected escalation of costs over the next 4 years.
Your 760 includes contingency.
Yes, it does.
What is the purpose of the additional monies above what you have been dedicated?
You talking about the contingency itself? Well,
If your contingency is captured in the 760 million.
correct.
What will be the intended use for all the dollars above 760 million?
Oh, okay. I understand what you're saying. Yeah. So I'm not the best expert in terms of telling you all the detail of those additional dollars. That's probably best for our CFO to be able to address. But my general understanding in the big box world is that the organization is using that to retire some existing debts and the like, and to be more effective and efficiently to get those out of the way. So we're able to take advantage of the market in an extremely fiscally responsible way.
The union work that you have here, have you had any conversation with the unions around inclusion goals for Hispanic participation, minority participation, and who has had those conversations with them, and what has been the outcome of that?
Great question. So in fact, Turner Construction once again is tasked with the idea, but is tasked with developing a PLA with the unions. My understanding is they have already established that connection and reached out to them and begun those conversations with them in terms of what that would look like. We have emphasized the need for looking for and maintaining our goals for diversity and inclusion, as well as the usual and customary goals of making sure we don't have any work stoppages and other things that could interfere with the project. MetroHealth has had a very successful relationship with the unions on the projects that we've done to date, at least to date since I've been here. Other than the CCP, we've also built our clinic out in Brecksville, of course, our inpatient hospitals, and just prior to my arrival, we completed Middlebury Heights. My understanding is most of the labor on that, almost by default, is union labor, and we also and so we've been very successful in working with the unions in terms of sort of naturally, but we will do something more formal for this project since it's so very different, it's so very large in scale, and it's a singular project over a very long period of time.
We've had very successful inclusion models from the medical mart. I anticipate similar for the Q transformation, and here as well would be my expectation. The PLA has not been established as of yet, has it?
That's correct. We're not under construction yet, so
Okay.
that's right.
We have an inclusion director here at the county who has played a role in participation and in the sharing and the transparency of the goal numbers. It would be my hope that there could be a dialogue with our own inclusion directors so that we could have a conversation and an understanding of the numbers as they develop.
That would be excellent. That'd be fine. Our regular reports to the board as we progress on the project would include those, and we'd be happy to provide those directly if needed.
Okay, and then our inclusion director can help keep us informed, as you do as well.
Sure.
On the progress.
Absolutely.
Final word from me, at least. Just wanted to. This has been with us in a way, the new council for many years, and but I want to remind the council and anybody who might be listening that in the end, although the county was helpful and others were helpful, and we played a role in some financing, that if you really want, the only way you can really understand this is to understand that Metro has done this themselves. They've financed this themselves for the most part, and that, this is really an amazing feat by our very ancient public hospital. So it's all to the benefit of the community in 100 different ways. We're glad to have been able to help in a small way, and look forward to this process and monitoring it, and being partners with Metro in this process.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the committee?
I have two brief, if that's okay, just two brief questions. So were you set up, and I'm assuming you are, with a new structure to accommodate the viruses such as Ebola with quarantine sections for if we experience a massive outbreak?
Yeah, so part of the critical care pavilion construction included what we call a special disease care unit, SDCU. That's 2 rooms that are built on the 4th floor of the critical care pavilion. It basically also includes its own dedicated unit. Those rooms are specifically designed to handle diseases such as Ebola. It was drawn out of our being selected as being the Ebola hospital, if you will, in Northeast Hospital. So once we stepped up to do that, that was inserted into that project for construction. Our infection prevention officer went around the country to look at other places like that. We took the best of what we saw. We enhanced it even more so. Now they come to us to see what we've done. So far we haven't had to use it. They simply serve as simple infectious prevention rooms, negative pressure rooms, or whatever, for much milder communicable diseases. Nothing quite so deadly as Ebola. But that is already on campus at this point.
Are we about it in the state, though, to the sophistication level to handle these diseases,
Our knowledge,
viruses?
that's true, yes. Yes.
Well, I hope it's enough, because if they say what's true is ice melts, with global climate change, these viruses are going to start to come out in big ways, and that's one of the repercussions we're going to be facing. So I bet we're going to be on the map.
Yeah.
Oh, and lastly, just a comment, the redevelopment of Tremont, Ohio City, West 25th now, it's great. The consideration for the people who've already living there and gentrification, I think that's incorporated in your model with the community outreach. Is that part of what you're looking to hopefully achieve to allow people to continue to live there when the prices start to go up?
Absolutely.
Awesome,
I think
thanks.
that's yours. Yeah.
That's yours. One for each of you, thanks.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the committee? All right. One final note on the inclusion efforts. The PLA is where the community benefits, to me, actually happen. I focus on minority contract participation, workforce participation, and apprenticeships. Contracts, workforce, and apprenticeships. The inclusion of Hispanic, minority, females, African American, in those areas of hard dollars. Those are the dashboard, if I call it a dashboard for the community of numbers. That's what we like to see. Yeah. So again, everyone has said this is a fantastic project. You have done it on your own with some help from the county, and we're all excited to watch this develop over the coming years. So again, if there are no further questions, we thank you all for coming out. If you had any final comments, feel free.
I think we're good. We appreciate the opportunity to show this to you. I'm sure there'll be many more, and we're looking forward to telling you how this is progressing.
Great, we appreciate the update.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Is there any miscellaneous business by the committee? If not, Ashley, has anyone signed in for public comment?
Yes, Ms. Lou?
Ms. Lou, please come forward.
Good morning, everybody. I'm here, I want to thank you, the two gentlemen from MetroHealth. Last year, that was like about also March, and County Council President Mr. Brady was the one here saying, we don't have to wait for federal government or any other government entities. If we see something in need, important for all of us, when we get opportunity, we do it. And now 1 year, we have this wonderful update. I really have to thank MetroHealth. However, there's some flaws in their presentation. Probably they did not realize. We have heard from that group called Clevelanders for Public Transit. Actually, from March 11th, this month, 15 major bus lines will start having less frequencies. However, people cannot schedule their time to get sick, to get attacked, to get in accidents. The bus lines for MetroHealth should be 24 hours, should we have a good frequency, because with enlarged space, with more buildings, more facility to serve the community, you actually don't have adequate transportation for public. Some people cannot afford to use ambulance. Some people cannot afford to drive because they are already injured on crutches maybe. They cannot get a ride from family and friends all of a sudden. So they need to use bus. But guess what? Now they have to wait in the cold. If they miss the bus line to connect them to the 51s, ABC, whatever numbers, guess what will happen to them? All the good facilities we will have in the very near future will be compromised by that. Even Healthline itself, to serve University Hospital and Cleveland Clinic, right now is enduring a big, huge problems. So please, MetroHealth, help us so we can also help you, because this mass transportation system has to be improved in order to match up your achievement in the very near future to help all the residents in Cuyahoga County. Thank you.
Ashley, is anyone else signed in for public comment?
No, no one else is signed in.
All right. Well, if nothing else holds our attention, our meeting is adjourned.